Birth of Fuji's 8 crowns. Shogi player Sota Fuji became the first player in history to win all 8 crowns. He achieved this feat 7 years after turning professional. And while celebrating his talent and hard work, it also served as an opportunity to think about how society should foster young talent. He enjoys playing chess and has been researching AI from an early stage, earning him the title of the strongest player in the human race. However, he has also shown talent that goes beyond AI, and his desire to improve. And his efforts never end. Additionally, although in a different field, Associate Professor Mayuko Yamashita of Kyoto University became the first Japanese to receive an international award given to young female mathematicians. She is also showing an active role in overturning preconceived notions. What these people have in common is that they have dedicated themselves to what they love since childhood, strive to improve themselves, and develop their talents. Also, the existence of people who are allowed to push forward toward their goals in their respective fields, and who support them is very important. Kansai's inbound economy. The inbound economy in the Kansai area is moving from consumption of goods to consumption of experiences, centered on rare experiences. According to the Asia-Pacific Research Institute, APIR's Kansai Economic White Paper 2023, the unit consumption by foreign visitors to Japan in the 4 prefectures of Kansai increased by 25.4% compared to the same period in 2019, before the coronavirus outbreak. In order to compensate for the sharp decline in the number of Chinese tourists, the government aims to raise the unit consumption amount of foreign visitors to Japan to 200,000 yen by 2025. However, in the April to June period of 2013, the price in Kansai has already exceeded 264,000 yen. Construction of large luxury hotels is progressing, and these hotels tend to spare no effort in investing in guest rooms in order to attract wealthy inbound tourists. These developments show that the Kansai area is overcoming challenges in the tourism industry. From this information, we can see that a shift from material consumption to experience consumption, and a bold management attitude that anticipates the future, based on detailed analysis and takes risks, are necessary for the success of the inbound economy. The economic measures proposed by Prime Minister Kishida are to return increased tax revenue to the people. However, there are questions about whether the increase in tax revenue reflects the strength of the economy and how it will be returned. The country's tax revenue in fiscal 2017 reached a record high of 71.1 trillion yen, but this is not necessarily the result of growth. Consumption tax revenue is increasing, which is affected by high prices and the weak yen. Opinions are also divided as to the origin of increase in tax revenue. It is possible that individual people will not feel the benefit of the tax cuts suggested by Prime Minister Kishida. Furthermore, the question of whether or not to use all of the increased tax revenue has become an issue. The country's spending is increasing more than its tax revenue, and if it becomes normal to spend all of it, it could affect the country's bond rating. From these discussions, it becomes clear that returning tax revenue should be a temporary measure. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company TSMC, a major semiconductor company, plans to manufacture 6-nanometer semiconductors in Japan. This is the most advanced technology in Japan. We are currently considering manufacturing at our second Kumamoto factory, with a total investment of approximately 2 trillion yen. The Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry is considering financial support of up to 900 billion yen. Mass production of nano-semiconductors at TSMC Kumamoto. The government plans to include semiconductor support measures, including a new TSMC factory, in its economic package. The Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry has requested a total of 355 trillion yen in the supplementary budget bill for fiscal 2023. TSMC has been building its first semiconductor factory in Kumamoto since 2022. And the second factory, which will manufacture advanced products, is scheduled to begin construction in the summer of 2024 and begin mass production in 2027. Once the second factory starts operating, mass production of 6-nanometer semiconductors will be ensured in Japan. In addition to TSMC, the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry is seeking an additional 590 billion yen for Lapidus, which aims to mass produce cutting-edge semiconductors domestically in 2027. We also plan to support other companies such as Intel and the Sony Group. Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications meeting new standards for dimension-based taxation and addition of capital surplus. The Japanese government has provided over 2 trillion yen in the past 2 years to provide investment support. The reason behind the request for more funding is that aid will begin at the end of the year. In Europe and the United States, the United States has prepared a budget of approximately 8 trillion yen, and Europe has prepared a budget of approximately 6 trillion yen. A meeting of experts from the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications discussed a review of the corporate enterprise tax that companies pay to prefectures based on the size of their capital. In order to prevent tax evasion, we mainly considered the idea of adding capital surplus to capital. It was agreed that the new indicator would be the total amount of capital and capital surplus, or the amount of capital, etc. Under tax law, the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications pointed out that even large companies may not be subject to tax if treasury stock is deducted from the standards. The combined amount of capital stock and capital surplus has the advantage of being able to handle formal capital reductions and being easier for tax authorities to confirm. Japan's economic security, a new action plan and its 3 pillars. The Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry held an expert meeting to strengthen industrial and technological infrastructure related to economic security and took steps toward establishing economic security. We announced that we will formulate an action plan within the month. This plan consists of 3 pillars: industrial support, industrial defense, and international cooperation. In terms of industrial support, there is a need to strengthen the industrial base through subsidies and tax incentives, and support will be focused on semiconductors, quantum computing technology, decarbonization technology, biotechnology, etc. We also recognize the importance of securing the supply chain for important minerals necessary for manufacturing. In terms of international cooperation, there is a need to respond to economic coercion and cooperate with like-minded countries. Specifically, this includes responding to trade restrictions and technology transfer requests by foreign countries. It also indicates a policy of cooperating with partners outside of the G7. Regulating the smartphone market, pros and cons and their impact. The government is considering new regulations for smartphone operating system OS operators. Opinions on this were published, and comments were received from both supporters and opponents. Taking these opinions into consideration, the government may submit related bills. During the 2024 regular session of the Diet, the Digital Market Competition Council has released a final report requiring Apple and Google to diversify their app distribution stores and in-app payment methods. This report received 559 comments. Apple forces iPhone users to go through its App Store to get apps. Additionally, payment methods within the app are basically not accepted by anyone other than our own company. Some argue that consumers would benefit from having a store with a higher level of security available. There was also the opinion that Apple's restrictions on payment methods are narrowing consumers' choices, and others supported the government's legislation. However, Apple opposes the new regulations, saying they risk distorting the market. Similarly, Google has argued that the regulations are neither warranted nor necessary. A new challenge at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. Retrieval of molten nuclear fuel. Tokyo Electric Power Company Holdings HD is conducting a trial retrieval of molten nuclear fuel debris inside the reactor containment vessel of Unit 2 of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. We have taken a new step towards this goal. Specifically, it was announced that work would be carried out on the 13th to open the hatch at the containment vessel penetration. This work is to create an inlet for the robot arm used to take out the material. The hatch is opened by remote control, by hooking the handle onto the hook. Any deposits or cables present inside the penetration are removed using high-pressure water. TEPCO plans to install a robotic arm to retrieve debris on a trial basis in the second half of fiscal 2023. This news indicates that decommissioning work at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant is moving to a new stage, and attention is focused on its progress. If this work is successful, decommissioning work at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant will take a major step forward.